Broncos country. Are you really happy at your job? If not, go ahead and brush up your resume and send it to the Broncos, who should be looking for a defensive coordinator, but they're not. My name's Kev Dan. Welcome to the Bourbon Broncos No BS post-game podcast, post-mortem podcast. John, this is I don't know what to do. Miami won, and maybe that's all we say tonight.
Miami's a good team. Miami seems like they're a good team.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something, they played a good game yesterday. Nothing else.
They seem like they seem to have it together.
Oh, jeez. Hey, Clayton, how you doing? I know we're starting a little late tonight, but, at least we showed up, unlike the Broncos. We'll put that out there. But glad you guys are here. Post your comments, post your questions, and, we'll go through them as we break down this loss, if you want to call it that, against Miami. So, John, how are you doing tonight?
Man, Kevin, this is one of those. Usually after a Broncos loss, it takes me 24 hours to collect my thoughts, regroup. This was one that I am still at a loss for words for what we saw yesterday. I can't tell you how many. When something is so bad that you start laughing, I've only had that happen a few times in my life, and like a few of those times in my life happened yesterday during that game. It was embarrassing. It's the biggest embarrassment I've seen from the Broncos, I think, ever. Yep. That's actually not that hard of a statement to make. Yep.
Yeah. It took me back to Super Bowl 48, which wasn't nearly as big a blowout. I think that game, we can go back to just how everything fell apart from the very first snap, but it was just an absolute bloodbath. And I think this was worse than that to me, to be honest with you.
Yeah. More was definitely on the line in that game, if we want to talk about historic blowouts for the Broncos.
Well, yes. But at least in that case, we made it to the Super Bowl. We had Peyton Manning. We knew it was a terrible, terrible game at the worst possible time. But Peyton Manning was going to come back, and we saw what happened the next year, right?
Sure, yeah.
Are we in that position at all with Russell Wilson?
Here's the deal. This took me back to the Rams game last year, honestly. Okay. What was that, 56? I think they scored 56 on us in that game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're going to get into a lot here, Kevin. I thought this was going to be a short episode for us, but the more I'm thinking about it, I think we have a lot to discuss in this post.
We do, I think. Yeah. No, I agree.
But I don't know if you remember, but after that Rams blowout last year, there was a certain coach that lost his job, and that was the final straw. And I was feeling like we might wake up today in the same situation with someone without a job. And again, we'll get to it, I'm sure. But needless to say, someone has not lost their job. That person being Vance Joseph.
Well, let's talk about it, because that is the monkey, and that's the elephant in the room, right? That's the big thing that we got to talk about. Is there's a lot at play here. Look, we're 0-3, so now you have to have that conversation of, when do we make a change? When do we say we've tried this enough times to know that this isn't working? We still haven't played the Chiefs at all. We have to play them twice. We have to play the Raiders again, the Chargers twice. This was a very good Miami team, but we're going to play equally, if not better, teams down the line as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can't even say like, oh, well, they're just a really good team. No, this is historic proportions that we just saw yesterday in a bad way, which does not need to be said. I don't even know. Right. We're cutting that out. Right. But
cut that.
Historic performance in a bad way from the Broncos.
Now, John, I want to really quickly, I want to go back before I talk about like what made it so bad, but to talk about Vance Joseph and why I think the reason we didn't let him go more than anything is, yes, there are people in the organization that have defensive coordinator experience. But you got to remember, we flew back.
Who do we have
that got back today?
Who is that person? Who do we have in the building?
There's like 5 names. I can't remember. 4 names. Somebody posted, I think, Benjamin Albright. No. Coaching staff. coaching staff.
Yeah.
So I think
okay.
Benjamin Albright. Yeah, I think Benjamin Albright posted it. I'd have to go back and look, but he listed all the people who have that experience. But they flew back today. Well, late last night. They looked at the tape today. And they're leaving again. They're leaving again Friday for Chicago.
Yeah.
So if you fired the coach this afternoon, you're not gonna.
Yeah.
You hire someone and say, "Can you take this? Get on the plane here now. We're leaving in a couple days."
Right.
Like, how does that work?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You are 100% correct, Kev. Like logistically, that all makes sense to me. It just felt like one of those things where when you lose this badly, when you almost break the record for most points against you in a game, most yards against you in a game, it just seems like I was expecting a statement to come out today saying that Vance. I was actually pretty confident Vance Joseph was not going to be around after today because of that.
Yeah.
But they have come out and he is going to be there. He's got at least one more week at a minimum. Yeah. That's all I know right now. He will be coaching the defense on Sunday against the Bears. That's the extent I know for Vance Joseph. Now, he has two opportunities against two teams, the Bears and the Jets, to turn this around. To me, it seems like.
If
we can't do it against those two teams, like
exactly.
The Raiders and the Commanders were two teams that we should have been able to get it done against. Preseason, I would have told you the Jets were going to be a tricky one with Aaron Rodgers, but with him gone, they're a totally different team. So, if he doesn't get it done this week against the Bears, I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to let go. If he doesn't get it done against the Jets, like if he still keeps his job and doesn't get it, how long does Sean Payton let this go?
Exactly. And that's the question that I think, we're going to talk about tomorrow night on the Bourbon Broncos and OBS show, as well as the pregame podcast. The question I'm going to have is, what do we need to see from Vance Joseph to say, yeah, he'll at least keep his job for the rest of the year? And that's just something for us to think about, and we'll have that conversation tomorrow. But it's the way that we lost, man. It was absolutely just watching players give up one after the other, starting in the second quarter. They were just totally giving up on themselves, on the game, on the teammates. There was just, I don't know. I don't know what to say other than that is a direct reflection of leadership, and therefore that is a direct reflection of Vance Joseph.
Yeah, and I could see from Sean Payton's point of view, the fact that he's not firing him makes me think that he's taking ownership of it. Because if you're going to say the buck stops with Vance Joseph, then there's nothing to say that, he's not the head coach, so the buck does also stop with Sean Payton. So you can't just say, oh, it's Vance Joseph's fault and that's it. And also to that point, like Vance Joseph's not on the field. You still have to make a tackle if you're a defensive player. Vance Joseph can't force you to make a tackle. Now, he can put you in better positions, sure, but how many plays did we see yesterday where guys were missing 3, 4, 5, 6? There's a meme out there where we have six Broncos on the ground
there.
on a running.
One of the last kickoffs.
And it's just
it was the running play, right?
Yeah, I think it was right after we scored the kick return. One of the few highlights of the game for the Broncos in a positive way was the Marvin Mims kick return. I think that was I saw that coming. After that kick return, I was like, this defense just got burned for another touchdown. Now we have a quick score and we're going to put them right back out.
Back out.
I was like, God.
They did that themselves, man. They did it themselves.
I can't feel sorry for them because they're athletes. They're making millions of dollars. They're there to play the game. But this looked like one of those games you hear about in the news where a top high school team in the state of Texas goes up against the 1A team in the preseason and just beats them by 100 points. That's what that felt like. The Dolphins
week one.
The Dolphins could do whatever they wanted to the Broncos at any time, and it was they had backups in there and they were still scoring on.
Now I want to ask you. So for people who are in here in the chat, we got Clayton. Thank you very much, good sir. Glad you're here. And for everyone else who's tuning in, listening when we're not live, thank you for listening. Even though we all know that wasn't fun, but we all love our Broncos if you're listening, and so we're going to secure no matter what. All right, John. So I mean, for me, I can't get past the idea of the whole culture conversation, and I think this was the epitome of that. And I keep doing it because there are a lot of similarities in leadership principles between NCAA and NFL. There's a video of Deion Sanders explaining to the team, after like one of the mass exoduses before the beginning of the season when they're cutting down the roster and stuff. He said he was looking for winners. And he said, the reason I asked a lot of you in interviews and stuff when we were trying to figure out who's going to be on the team was if you've been a winner before, it's not just were you on a winning team, but what did you do to contribute to that winning team? Like, did you step up when the team needed you? Things like that. And he was able to grab it. He had the pick of the litter, right? NCAA rules. He could basically rebuild his entire team. So he was able to get and flush out all of the people with that losing mentality, that losing mindset, who had been doing nothing but losing year in and year out, and bringing the people that knew how to win. Broncos weren't able to do that, right? We have to work through. There is a culture of 7 years of losing in this building. Sure. Garrett Bowles said it in after the game when they asked him, and everyone was looking sad. That interview, man, I've been here for 7 years and I've done nothing but lose. There's a losing mentality in that locker room. It is the culture. It is what they expect, whether that's in the front of their minds or in the back of their minds. It's just like, here we go again. And they've got to be feeling it too. I mean, you see how if they are going to say it, but you see it in the looks on their faces, like, here we are again.
Right. And especially a guy like Garrett Bowles, right? Like, he's probably one of the few that's been around. Like, it feels like he came in, right after the Super Bowl? So he has felt this the longest, I think, of anybody on the team, if I had to guess. I mean, that's just a total guess.
I would say so.
He's up there for sure. But you're right. Like, guys like him have only known failure with this team. And that was what we were supposed to be getting with Sean Payton, a change of culture. And then we have not gotten that in the first 3 games. Leads to much more questions about Sean Payton and the staff that he's put together, the roster that he and George Payton have built. I don't know who runs the show between the two of them. I'll tell you, one of them probably has a bigger contract, and it's not the general manager. We were promised Sean Payton was here to change that culture, and we haven't seen it yet. That's just facts, right?
One of the stats that really I'm also looking at when I'm trying to identify, is this culture change happening? Are players taking on more accountability? Are they stepping up? Is the penalties. I think we're leading the league right now in penalties. That's another thing of just players just are not dialed in. So following the interception we had yesterday, great field position, McGlinchey, a team captain, pre-snap penalty.
Yeah.
And then we just went backwards from there. And we weren't, then we pushed ourselves out of field goal range even. This is what I'm talking about, like a team captain. This is like, okay, maybe we can do something to get us going at least in the right direction. If we don't win this game, at least we get some momentum. And he goes out there and he does that. Look, we're all human. We all make mistakes. But as a team captain, as somebody that we brought in to be a leader on this team, that was the worst possible moment for you to do that, dude.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think there's more arguments to be said that there are other penalties in that game that did not go our way, that were a little bit questionable, that would have
for sure
potentially changed the game. I don't know if it changes it. I don't think it makes our defense all of a sudden, a top tier defense in the league. But at the same time, it certainly doesn't help the prospects of being competitive in a game when you're getting questionable calls against you that, add to that penalty. I think you're right. I think we are leading we're up there, at least. We're in the top 5 in penalties. 7 yesterday for 46 yards was our best game. That's the best thing I can say in that regard.
There were a couple that were denied. Yeah.
The ones that really frustrate me are the offsides and the encroachment on the defense, when it's like they're in a position where it's either 3rd and short or, those positions where it's just long for a team that clearly does not need you to help them, to score touchdowns. And what is this pass rush doing that they you're not getting to the quarterback. You're not sacking the quarterback. Why are you making it worse by getting penalties? You might as well, if you're not going to even put pressure on the quarterback anyways. You might as well wait a second until after.
Just stand put. Just stay put.
At least you're not hurting even more. But
right. You don't need to fly off the edge like Von Miller. Like you're it's not worth jumping off sides.
Unless I see something different
at that point. But pass rush, none. I mean, could we even have an argument or have a conversation about Frank Clark would have made a difference? I don't think so. I don't think he would have made a single difference.
Where's Randy Gregory? How much are we paying Randy Gregory to be putting pressure on the quarterback, and we're not getting any of that?
Well, there wasn't even really any chances to get pressure on, because maybe you can explain this to me. I do not understand the principle. Maybe the Broncos didn't know this going into the game. I knew this because I have a memory, albeit a bad memory, but I've watched Broncos games in the past.
Are you going to be talking about a certain wide receiver? Is this where this is going?
Oh, yeah. So Tyreek Hill has this weird thing where if he catches the ball and you give him about half of a second to start running, he's going to burn you every single time. Now, maybe the Broncos didn't know this, but what I saw is all game long, essentially, they just kept putting receivers, mainly Tyreek Hill, out there in the middle of the field where he was wide open and then made things happen, right? His average, I think, I lost the stats. I think his average was like over 20 yards of reception or something crazy like that.
17 yards.
Okay, 17. So why? I mean, we didn't even see a halftime. And to me, that's a first quarter adjustment. He's burned us twice already. We need to do something different versus it's the fourth quarter and he's not playing anymore because they're winning so badly that we don't have to worry about it anymore.
And this is gonna bring us back to a previous point. For me, anyways, that is where I do blame Vance Joseph. That is game planning, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you let this guy, who, no surprise, is one of the best, if not the best, wide receivers in the league? I already made that point about Davante Adams, but we actually covered Davante Adams relatively well in that Raiders game. Not Tyreek Hill. And guess what? They were missing Jalen Waddle. What does this game look like if they had another top 10 wide receiver in the league? It can't be much worse, right? Like, I don't know if it's possible for them to score more with
there's a couple incompletes, that might have been completions or something. I don't know. Like, fine. Seriously.
That's fine. I mean, but yeah, Tyreek Hill on the third play of the game. Now that looked like a blown I mean, that was very clearly a blown coverage. I'm curious if that play happens the same way if Justin Simmons is in the game. It looked to me like the safety was very clearly supposed to pick up Hill.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm not a defensive coach. I don't know if that's clear to anybody, but I'm not. We have one of the best cornerbacks in the league. Is it not possible to just put him on Tyreek Hill every play? I don't care if he's in the slot. Like, we have to stop this guy.
Right. That's exactly what I was screaming at the TV is like, why do we not have someone on him at this point?
I can't,
because
there was maybe maybe two plays where Surtain was covering him. But for the most part, it was these zone plays where they were picking it apart over and over again. And then the other point about the pass rushing, I mean, that also comes down to scheming. Again, where's Vance Joseph scheming to get these guys pressure on the quarterback? I'm not seeing it. I'm very concerned.
Part of it is when you leave the number one or number two look for the opposing quarterback wide open, essentially every pass play, he only needs 1.5 seconds in the pocket. You are not going to get pressure on him that quickly, and that's part of the problem. Yes.
Why are we not double coveraging on Tyreek Hill every player?
I would have taken man-to-man coverage with Pat Surtain, knowing that statistically 50% of those balls should be knocked away. If you're going up for 50-50 balls, you just stick on him like glue. You're going for those 50-50 balls. Pat Surtain should be able to knock half of those away. That would have been a huge improvement over what we saw yesterday.
It couldn't have been worse. Let's put it that way.
It couldn't have been worse. It couldn't have been.
I feel like that could almost be the Broncos' motto in the last 7 years.
You know what? It's time. It's time we make fun of this. I completely forgot about this until you said motto. Broncos motto going into the season was to be uncommon. Their motto is uncommon. Let me tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, we are uncommon. We have done it. The only reason we are not incredibly uncommon is because, Miami coach there decided not to embarrass
mercy on us.
his original team. I think that's the only reason. If it'd been any other team in the NFL, he would have been like, yeah, I don't care. But because he started out with the Broncos,
I'll give him. I mean,
he's a very classy guy.
Give him respect like that.
Yeah,
that was a classic. It'd be hard for me to say, yeah, don't go get the 100-year-old
NFL history record. Yeah, yeah, not just one, but two of them. Yeah, 7 more yards, they would have tied the record.
So there's the bright spot, Kevin. This was
I had 2 on my fantasy team.
This was one of the worst defensive performances in NFL history, but it wasn't the worst in regards to points against and yards against. So you're right.
But I'm going to say I'm going to say that's because of McDaniels being nice to us.
But it wasn't. But it wasn't. When you look in the history books, you will not see that. What you will see in the history books is who was the first team to score 5 rushing touchdowns and 5 passing touchdowns in a game. That makes that the worst for us. Who was the first team to have over 700 yards of offense and 70 points in a game? That makes us the worst. But in those 2 most points, those are harder stats. Those are harder to find in the Guinness Book of World Records, those 2 stat lines. But no, that was atrocious. And I don't know how. I would love to be a fly on the wall in that tape session today and yesterday, or tomorrow, I should say. Yeah. Because, man, did you see the Sean Payton interview, the 4-minute video that was out there yesterday?
Can we talk about, if you're going to be a reporter, and I don't know who asked that question, but if you're going to be a reporter, don't poke a pissed off alligator. Is that so? I think we're talking about different ones. I don't know if I saw the one you're talking about, but the one I saw.
I'm talking about the alligator comment you just made. Is that a pissed off alligator?
I just made it up. Well, I was thinking
you live in Florida for a bit. I know that. So
and I wouldn't poke any.
Never poke a pissed off alligator. I would never poke any alligator, whether he's happy or mad.
But Sean Payton, someone goes up there and asks him, like, hey, coach, how you feeling? And he goes, yeah, that was embarrassing. But you could tell he was pissed off. Obviously, that was embarrassing. Blah blah blah. Next person goes, okay, coach, third time a team has scored 70 points against another, 7 yards away from the record there, and coach is like, what is your question? Well, sir, I'm just wondering, how are you reflecting on this? He goes, I said it's embarrassing. He's like, what is your question?
He's like, I just spent 30 seconds talking about how embarrassing it is. What are you getting at? And he's like, yeah, but do you know how historically embarrassing it is? Are you aware of that? He's like, I'm fucking aware. Let's go.
I would not have blamed Sean Payton if he went off that podium and smacked the guy. Dude, one person asked, how do you feel? The other person goes, how do you what's your reaction? It's the same question. Oh, and now you're rubbing dirt in the wound, as you're trying to ask the question. Dude, you have, I don't know who that was, but anyway, that's the one I saw.
Cracked me up because he's just so fucking livid.
Oh,
just reading
trying
some
to keep it together.
How he approaches things. No one took that loss probably harder than he did, I would say, and still is taking it harder than he is. And he came to that podium with a red face. And
yeah. So I don't know what he was saying to the guys before he went out to the podium, but it was his face was red for a reason, and he was already obviously he was agitated, immediately following the game, but he was already in that mindset. You could tell he was already
there's some pretty historic coaches losing it in an interview. So in his defense, I felt like that was pretty calm. He kept it together pretty well compared to some of those interviews, but I was waiting for it. I was waiting for him to just lose his mind.
So that's the one that stuck out to me the most, was just not so much the content of what Sean Payton said, but more dude, you seriously asked him that? You are an idiot. You are a great idiot.
Yeah.
What was the one you saw?
No, I was going to talk about that too, obviously. That's the highlight from it, but I was just going to talk about the passion that he was showing from the anger in the interview, which any coach is going to show. 70 points is still unbelievable to see that on a stat line. That's ridiculous, but just knowing from the articles you read about Sean Payton, like how intense he is and how much he gives a shit about football, like what must be going through his mind when like it's one thing for me as a fan, but like this is like this is like the most like I get to go to work and do whatever I do during the day, and the Broncos are very, very, very important to me, but like this is his fucking life. And it was embarrassing, and he said
you can't run away from it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to sit here and talk about it, obviously. I mean, I'm glad I'm here with you and everyone else that's watching, but it's not necessarily a fun thing to talk about. But then to go into work and that is your job. You have to face that, right?
You got to figure out how to fix it moving forward. You have another game in 7 days, right?
How do you address the team and say, put that behind, the thing is that there needs to be such a deep evaluation of what's going on. Because it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of the show here. When do you say we're throwing in the towel?
Again,
to me, it's not at that point yet. Like 0-3 teams historically do not make it to playoffs. God, I'm not even thinking about that right now. I'm thinking about, can we turn this thing around? Can we get to ourselves to a point where we can have a successful second half of the season? Maybe be in that conversation, but get ready for the following season, come out there and look strong, right?
But I don't. If we are winless by the last game of the year, I don't think that's gonna ever. There will never be a throw in the towel moment for this team, for this coaching. Like, unless Sean Payton retires again, like I don't think he's ever throwing in the towel. Just with his intensity, that's not like losing is not in his vocabulary, his approach to a game.
Yep.
So, and there's been a lot of that, a lot of people talking about, okay, it's time to tank for Caleb Williams, right? I've heard that all day yesterday, which is fine. We as fans can talk about that, but I guarantee you that is not something that will ever be in the mindset of the Broncos until after the season, and they'll look at where they're at in the draft at that point.
Yep, exactly.
I've been wrong before, though.
Yeah, but it's one player right now is not going to fix this team. No. Getting the number 1 overall or whatever, so what? Now all you've done is add more embarrassment to the team. You've introduced more losing into the team. You've delayed really any true culture change within the organization. So for more than just, it doesn't make sense to lose just to lose to get a better draft pick. There are so many other reasons here. Like that argument just has zero basis. It's not like we're one player away from getting
but
into the
it's also like at this point in the season, if you're seriously making that argument, like
you don't
understand how football works.
You don't know what you're
3 games in. Like, I'm not saying we're all of a sudden going to be competitive and I'll automatically or out of nowhere be vying for a playoff position, but we're 3 games in. It's a long freaking season. They have to show some serious turnaround though, and they better start doing it pretty quickly against 2 winnable opponents.
So let me ask you this, John. Here we are following the worst Sunday since Super Bowl 48.
Okay. The argument could go back.
This isn't the worst game in Broncos history, but this is, I would say.
Think so? Yeah, I think it could be up there. I think the argument could be made.
It's up there. But I think, and I look more at just the score, But either way, let's fast forward hypothetically a couple weeks here. Let's say we somehow beat the Raiders. Somehow we beat the Bears, and we somehow beat the Jets at home there. Now we're looking at a team that's 2-3, 5 weeks into the season. I mean, is that a team that's totally out of it?
Out of the playoff picture? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, I'm just like out of the season, being considered like as like a team, like this is going to be an easy team to beat, or they've they're not even close to being considered. Like how are you feeling if we get to the point where we're 2-3?
That's such a hard thing to even imagine.
Well, here's why I'm asking.
70 points, Kevin. We just gave up 70 points.
But the next 2 teams we're playing are not Miami. It's not the Chiefs. It's not.
True. And I would not be shocked if we were 2-3. I would also not be shocked after this game if we're 0-5. Like, there needs to be some serious accountability and turnaround on this defense. And I'm putting the blame solely on the defense. I'll throw Cortland Sutton under the bus a little bit too. He had 91 yards, but those 2 turnovers, those 2 fumbles, like those were drive killers. And that can't happen. Like that goes back to the Melvin Gordon.
Can't do that against any team. Yep.
Melvin Gordon days of last year where, he was having a fine game, but guess what? He had 2 fumbles. That doesn't matter how good of a game you have. That just, your defense just left the field because of you. So that shit did not help the situation.
Agreed. And when you're talking about veteran players, that's another thing. Like, dude, this is a game where we needed you to not do that. Like we're giving you the ball because you're our guy, in terms of the wide receiver core. And you go and do that like twice in the game. Again, we're human. We make mistakes. Good play by the Miami defense, really fighting to get that ball out. But he wasn't doing anything extra.
It was like, okay, Sutton got a first down. Great. Awesome. And then he fights through a tackle. It's like, oh man, he's going to get 5 more yards. And then bam. It's like,
It's like, why didn't you just go out of bounds? Why didn't you just stop? Like, why? Why?
Anything right in this game.
Can't do anything right. Here's the football. Here you go. Present from Denver to you. Like, but here's my thing. You're talking about, and here's why I asked that question, not just for the sake of let's be whimsical and pretend about how nice you would be if we're 2-3, but you're talking about we need to really start making some changes and turn this thing around fast. This is the perfect opportunity for this team to do this. Right. The Bears are also winless. They are also going to be going out there looking, to save some face and get things going themselves. So this is going to be a challenging game for the Broncos. I'm predicting very well. I can't even say a low score.
It's supposed to be challenging anyway.
Exactly.
Doing it on any week is what we've been told since we were born, right?
Exactly.
Which is what I was hoping for against the Dolphins because I did not have high hopes going into that game. It's like, oh well, you never know, right?
But not that. Nobody.
It went the opposite direction. It went way worse than
right. So if we're able to get something positive going and they translate into wins, albeit against the Bears and the Jets, now when you go into Kansas City on Thursday night, you at least have some momentum going into that game. Okay.
You're not wrong.
You have something under your belt and some success under your belt to build something off of. Thursday night games, look, going into Arrowhead, it's going to be very similar to how we both felt about Miami. It doesn't look good, but Thursday night games, both teams are tired. Though. Yeah, both teams. I think there's more evenness between, teams are tired. They didn't have as much time to prep. Other than these teams know each other. We know how, the Chiefs are run very well. We might have some surprises for them with Sean Payne under the helm. So, there could be some things that work out in our advantage. And I'm not, I'm jumping ahead 3 weeks, but no. There to do at this point. But I'm thinking this is the
go back in time
to do that. I don't want to do that. I think this could work. This is a chance where if they find out how to get things going, we could be saying some different things here in a few weeks, and hopefully have this be more of a just a bad dream, bad memory, some graphic they put up on the screen when the Broncos play because they have nothing else to talk about.
Sure.
And we look at the record and we're like, okay, we're at least moving in the right direction.
The possibility is there, Kevin. You are correct. This is a new team philosophy, if you will, new head coach, new defense for most of these players, new offense for most of these players. Even though I was hoping a lot Vance Joseph defense would carry over a little bit more, since I don't remember it being this terrible when he was our head coach. Okay. I don't know if I'm so confused still about that, but no, you're 100% right. And the other thing about the Chiefs is it's a division rival, right? We know them very well. Those games are, from even for like at a betting standpoint, for example, it's always hard to bet on division games because of how well both those teams know each other, and how much they hate each other, for honestly.
True.
So it's a totally different game, but I'm not going to have much confidence going in that Chiefs game if we're 2-3 still, Kevin.
No, but again, if we can show improvement at that point?
We have to show improvement.
Can we show that we went into Arrowhead and at least we played a defensively average game? The offense was moving the ball. Penalties are down. So yeah, we lost, but hey, we're making steps, and against a very good team in a very hostile environment. I think that's going to be a very good benchmark following the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked that question, was to kind of let's think about it in that regards of,
okay.
Look, we lost 70-20. We're 0-3.
I'm going to keep your perspective on this one because I don't want to go the opposite way. I don't want to go the opposite way.
Let's not.
I'm already down enough. I don't want to play devil's advocate for you there.
So yeah, I mean, I don't want to also get too much into, the next week's game, or we're going to be talking about tomorrow night and stuff. But, what other thoughts did you have?
I'll tell you some bright spots. Well, I don't know why, but we just don't talk about Russell Wilson on this show. Maybe he gets enough coverage everywhere else, but how much of these first 3 losses are you putting on Russell Wilson?
Good question. I'm not blaming him, but he's played a part in it. We need a quarterback that can play consistently for an entire game. And what we saw through the first 2 weeks was, a lot of really good arguments for why Russell Wilson is fixed, why, his numbers look good and everything like that. But he has, and this last week, it just kind of was the whole game. But once he gets into his own head, making, fumbling the ball or whatever, he gets into this funk. And then he totally is legitimately dropping the football, for a quarter and a half. And that's what's put us in these positions where our defense can't keep up. They need to be off the field recovering. So there is some, blame on him, because we're paying him $250 million essentially to play half a game of football, maybe a little bit more, play half a game of football well. And we can do it the entire game. Every drive he's out there. I'm not expecting, they're going to be 3 and outs and stuff, but man, following an interception in a game where we really need points off a turnover, and we're going to move backwards and put ourselves out of field goal range. Come on, that's just not acceptable. So that's where I'm factoring in. I'm not in any way saying that this is a Russell Wilson problem, and that if we replace Russell Wilson, this is going to be fixed. In fact, I think we'd be worse off.
Yeah, I can't blame Russ for any of these weeks. 100% anyways.
Yeah.
His play at times, you're right, it didn't help, but Russ isn't out there on defense allowing 70 points a game, right?
Thank you.
He's not
louder for the people in the back.
It's like almost a complete 180 from last year with
it is
how I feel about Russ and the rest of the team. I'm not blaming Russ for any of these losses. Now, I am concerned, don't get me wrong, about the second half of games. Where is the offense going? But look, first possession of the second half, it's like, okay, we need a touchdown on this drive. What do we do? First play, throw it to Judy, get 11, 12 yards. It was like, okay, we're getting things going.
Yeah.
Next play, run play on first down. Okay, we get 4, 5, 6 yards on that. Not bad. Second play, run play. Third play, run play. 3 and out, and we're out. And it's like, you just had a very nice completion to Judy. Why did we just abandon the passing?
Won that 3 times in a row. Yeah.
In a very key drive where it's like, you have to get something going to stay competitive in this game, or even
do something,
potentially have an opportunity to be competitive later on. And we just I don't know. It's like the second half play calling play in general just disappears for the offense. I don't know. That's a big concern from the offense for me in these 3 games.
I think that's leadership, both on and off the field. That's culture. That's players giving up. That's players looking at the score saying, look, it feels like 105, 110 out here. Our sideline's been in the sun the whole time.
Which
it is, what it's like, dude.
Advantage, by the way.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. You're sitting in 90-degree heat while your opponent's in 110-degree heat in the sun, and I felt like there was an effect with that heat in this game.
Sure. But as a player, you're looking at that.
You can't make excuses. That's the NFL, right? every team should have a home field advantage to a certain extent, but it definitely felt like when your defense is on the field as much as it was, like they were. I mean, I don't blame them for being super tired. That doesn't mean you can let 70 points though. That doesn't make it okay.
Right. Good teams find ways to win, even when when they're dealing with that kind of crap. Look, other teams go into Miami in September and early October, and actually any time of the year when it's 90 plus, in Miami, and they win.
Right.
So I get it as a person who doesn't like the summer and the heat. Like I would, you better be paying me millions of dollars to stay down there. I'm gonna be freaking miserable the whole time.
Right.
But from these guys' perspective, here they are in this heat, probably feeling like absolute shit, looking at the scoreboard saying, this is only week 3. I'm not saying that they're making business decisions. I'm not claiming any of that. What I'm saying is, just as a human, you're, the morale, and your intensity, it just starts pulling back. You're just like, oh, I just want to be done. The fatigue. We're just like, we just want this to end already. Like, let us go.
Yeah. So, I hope to God the morale in that building is at its lowest point in the season after that game.
They better not be laughing and high-fiving after that. Like,
well, no, they weren't, but
no,
what I'm saying is like, okay, hopefully, then this goes back to leadership. Like they gotta just like take, the next 24, 48 hours, whatever it is after that game to like sulk and like figure out what they did wrong. But then they got to prepare for the next week because it's a long season. Like it's only going to get worse if you start playing like that the rest of the year. You have to move on from that pretty quickly. You have to take your you have to take your beatings on that too, though, in the film room, in the locker room, because it's deserved. But you got to grow from it. Because if you just like taking it to take it, like now we're just like sadomasochists here.
Yeah. Internalize it, make changes based off of that, become better from it. No, you're exactly right. Are we doing it just out of this is what we do, and we're going to look at the film and we're all going to hate ourselves, and we're just going to go out there and do the same exact thing? Well, if the defense does that, then Vance Joseph, why are you a coach in the NFL? Like, are you serious? Make adjustments, address these things. I'm a coach. I've never coached football. Like, I'm not going to say that I know what it's like and all the millions of things that go into game planning, but this is just the worst performance in the NFL. And I don't know how else to say it other than Vance Joseph, dude.
Yeah.
Why are you here? What are you doing good for this team?
Yeah. No, I think we pretty much beat that horse.
Yep.
Horses
about to go back there.
So
what else do you think, John? What else?
But no, just to finish that thought, just to beat that horse a little bit more. If they come out the same way against the Bears, it's a pure reflection on leadership to bring that point, to just drive it home as far as we can. Like this should be the lowest of lows. Okay. We have to see a turnaround starting this week against an opponent that hopefully will allow us to turn it around. Right.
Please, Bears. If there are you Bears fans out there complaining, shut up. Don't no. I don't give you 42 to 10. I don't shut up. Shut up. I don't care. We lost worse. Okay. You can't complain. Let us have this.
Okay, but
we can complain next
week. Kevin, is this the game to decide who the worst team in the NFL is this weekend?
It's going to be labeled as that. It is.
It's either the greatest game of the weekend or the worst game of the weekend, depending on how you look at it.
God. We'll see, and I'm interested to see what the other guys think in terms of, the breakdown on the pregame podcast.
The pregame show, I guess.
Jeez. I don't know, John. I think it's time we just put this one literally in the history books.
Jerry
that was.
Did we like the performance from Jerry Jeudy this weekend?
Yeah, Jerry Jeudy, Mims, several good plays. That kickback return now was at the end of the game. Where it was like, but there were guys chasing him down. He put on the burners, like he made some moves.
Yeah,
they didn't just give it to him.
When we were still in the game, he had some pretty long. He had that huge pass early on in the game. We've seen that 2 weeks in a row now from Mims. That's a exciting thing coming from from this offense. Judy, I wish he was more involved early. They came out. He only had one catch, I think, for 12 yards in the first half, and then they came out throwing to him right away in the second half. So I was like, okay, they figured that out. That seemed to be like a clear opportunity, and I thought we were going to turn that around. And yeah, he had 5 catches for 81 yards, but most of that wasn't. The game was very clearly over. I liked Mims. Javonte Williams, 3.8 yards a carry. That's not bad. Like, that's not bad. Good. I'll take that.
And he had a couple where he broke some tackles and stuff, early on in the game. Like, so.
Yeah, there's just a few of the
offense isn't the problem. I'm not going to say that they're good, but they're not the problem here.
It's just, week 1 of training camp, defense was like, everyone was like, defense is looking so good. Offense, we're not sure if they're going to get together. It's going to be a repeat of the last year's, preseason, meh. But everyone was like hyping up this pass rush too. I was like, where has this fucking pass rush been in the preseason? Yep. And I just don't get it. Like, I don't know what's worse, us not having an offense or us not having a defense.
Why can't we just have both? I'm not asking for elite number 1 offense and elite number 1 defense at the same time. Just give me an average of both that we can work with. That's all I'm asking. Like, looking to the football gods, am I asking too much? Mm-hmm. Am I not making my blood sacrificing? Am I not doing that correctly?
Here's the deal, Kevin. I think
yesterday, right? You did your sacrifice to the flood gods. You did your sacrifice to the football gods?
I didn't do my sacrifice to the football gods. I'm sorry. It is on me. Okay. It is on me. I think here's the deal, Kevin. I think our generation of Broncos fans are just so used to winning and being competitive. And this is the football god saying, look, go back to your roots. Go back to your grandpa's generation when the Broncos were not very good. And just have a friendly reminder of what it used to be like. Maybe we just have to deal with this for a little bit. And then the football gods will say, okay, now you can be good again. I don't know. I don't know how it works.
I don't know how they, the inner workings behind the curtain, but we'll be back on top. So for all these people that are like, I'm throwing the towel, blah, 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 blah. Okay, dude, I'm not going to do the whole fake fan crap, but when we will get back to being good someday. I think that day is sooner rather than later because of Sean Payton. I'm talking 4 or 5 years, right? But I think once we're there and we're competitive every year,
you're telling me we have to wait 4 or 5 years before we can be excited.
No, I'm thinking really. I'm talking about being Super Bowl contender conversations.
I don't want to wait that long, Kevin.
No, I don't either. But I think that's what it's going to take. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's sooner than that. But once we get there, I think we're going to be there for a while again. And to see this team grow from literally the ground up, that's what we're seeing is what's going to happen when they hit rock bottom. And they did. So I don't know.
Yeah. Is this rock bottom? This has to be rock bottom.
This is rock bottom.
For a single game.
I mean, the only reason you are in the history books of having the largest defeat is because Miami was great. Seriously, that is this is rock bottom. I would have had no problem with them kicking that field goal, rushing for 8 more yards and kicking a field goal because go for it. 2 NFL history records.
That's a hard thing to pass up. Records. I wouldn't have been able to do it. I'll tell you right now. I would.
Classy move. So when you're talking about is this rock bottom, essentially, albeit for the grace of
99.99% rock bottom.
But that's what I'm saying is this is rock bottom because if they had decided to kick the field goal and get those yards because they're that close, why wouldn't you? This would be the worst game in NFL history for any team, and we'd be on the losing side of that, and this would be rock bottom. So I can't sit here and say well, it's 99.9999 even because we didn't do anything to prevent this from being the worst game in NFL history. That's not because of us. That's because of Miami.
I don't think I'd feel a tad bit different, except that I would be instead of saying this was the second worst game in NFL history, I'd be saying it's the worst game in NFL history.
Yeah. That's rock bottom, dude. This is I saw it on the players' faces. They're shock, disappointment, just this gut wrenching. You could tell, just what happened? Where am I?
Yeah.
What is happening? Yeah.
It's not
So
because this point last year, or not this point, but when we lost to the Rams last year,
yeah,
it was a full explosion of guys getting on each other, just fighting each other on the sidelines.
which I still think is why Dalton didn't get a job until last week.
Who?
Dalton Reisner.
Oh, yeah.
Because of the shoving incident on the sideline?
I don't know. Well, maybe.
Yeah,
anyway,
I think that
conversation.
But yeah, that whole thing fell
you didn't
apart
see that yesterday. It was just a complete team meltdown yesterday.
Yep.
Hey, on the bright side, Will Lutz 2 for 2 on field goals and 2 for 2 on extra points. So there's some positivity.
Because, what else could we have done other than add a missed field goal or missed point attempt, to add to the whole misery that was yesterday.
If you want to talk about parts of the team that didn't look bad, special teams actually looked
We're not
good.
talking about them. Yeah.
We're not talking about special teams for once. You guys have been talking about it for a long time in previous years. Special teams
tip my hat.
Really sucks. And look, that's might have been the number one bright spot. And
I would agree.
Payton said it in his interview. Aside from Marvin Mims' kick return, there wasn't many bright spots.
No.
Oh man, 121 kick return yards on 2 kick returns for Mims.
Yep.
That's not just one play. He had the 99-yard play, but he also had another 50-yarder. Or I could do math and say it was a 30-yarder.
Still, good return. Really good return.
Either way, he looked good as a kick returner. He's probably the player of the week if you want to give a player of the week in this game.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Either Will Lutz or Marvin Mims.
And that's saying oh my God. Look, dude, I can't wait for Sunday just because I want to move on. I want to get something in that dub column. I hate seeing that goose egg there. These guys can do it. We have. It's not like we're the least talented team in the NFL.
I think people are making the argument of the exact opposite argument.
I know they are. And I think they have every right to. Yeah. But being fans and looking at this roster and knowing the type of players that we have, this isn't the least talented team in the league. I would say this is average at best, but
what I don't understand is we have okay, you take away Bradley Chubb, and this is pretty much the same defensive roster, right? Who are we missing? Yes, we had some injuries this game, but we had some injuries last year. Why did the defense all of a sudden go from a top 10 defense to the worst defense in the league? I don't.
Game planning, scheme, leadership. Vance Joseph.
I'm just saying, I don't know how long Sean Payton can let this go. Unless you're making the argument, you got to deal with the shit until we figure it out to get it better. And again,
I think just like any other year, if you're going to see a change, it's going to be during the bye week.
Nah, I'm not.
If we are less than 5-3 or 3-5 at the bye week, I think that's when they make a change.
You think so? I mean, at head coach, I 100% agree. I mean, maybe it's the same for defense coordinator when your head coach is an offensive-minded guy. Maybe it's the same type of mentality, but
I think it's the type of performance they put on the field too.
Yeah, I mean,
are we losing because we're playing good teams and they're just a little bit better, but we're putting out really good defensive performances, or we're getting smoked every week? No matter who we play.
That's not what we're seeing right now.
That's not what we're seeing. Yeah,
we're seeing that. It's going to come down to performance more than record, in my mind. But it's got to be the defense actually performing.
Yeah, that's the other thing is the offense. As an offense, are you going to go out there? Are you going to put in everything you have when you look up and you see that they're leading by 40 plus points? No. Are you going to try your absolute hardest to break 1 or 2 more tackles?
No. I mean,
and again, I'm not saying that they're like, oh, I don't want to get injured. I'm making the business decision. It's just, it's human nature.
Yeah, it's
you see that, and you just go, and you're just like, I just want to get out of here. I just want to get in the shade. I want to get in air conditioning. I want to.
But I think
move on past this.
Professional athletes are different than you and I, Kevin. I'm gonna
to a degree. To a degree. Look, I agree. To a degree, they are different. Okay, but in the back of their head, at the end of the day, they're still human. Okay,
right.
you're losing by 40 plus points in Miami in that heat and everything. It's going to have an effect on you.
100%.
You're not going to go out there and be like, we got this, guys. We're going to go out 100%. There. No, it's
the negativity will take the toll on the brain or whatever, on your physical body for that matter. But, it doesn't mean they're not fighting for every yard.
Penalties increasing. You saw penalties increasing near the end of the game.
And I will say that it's the mental part of the game, I think, takes the biggest hit in those situations.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's like, do I go for those couple extra
yards and breaking extra tackles? I think that's just pure physicality and like just the fight on every play that you have to have as an athlete. It's the mental mistakes. It's the not getting. It's the Cortland Sutton not getting better control of the ball and keeping it close to his body so he's not fumbling it. Those type of things. Those mental mistakes. I think that's where the toll takes its place for you.
Yep. Okay, man. Well, I think this is as good a place as as any other to end it. Look, that was what it was. We're still going to be here, like we've promised you from day one.
Stop this in 1 minute, Kevin, by saying that was what it was.
Well, that was what it was. That was what it was. If you want to hear more breakdown of the Dolphins game, you can join us tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Mountain Time for Bourbon Broncos and No BS. Thankfully, we'll only talk about it for a little bit, and then we'll start talking about the Bears game as we move on, and that's our transition point for the week. But hope to see you guys there. Also, the pregame podcast. We also got the pregame show, Tailgate Talk, 1 hour before kickoff, as well as the halftime hash show, which starts live at halftime. So a ton of content for you guys. We're going to keep pushing it out. We just hope the Broncos, follow suit and start pushing out some W's. So I don't know, John. Any last thoughts, dude?
Well, Kevin, I hope this quote comes to me. It was something you said earlier that made me think of it. Famous Marilyn Monroe quote: "If you can't handle me at my worst, then you don't deserve me at my best." And that's where we're at with the Broncos. This is the worst, and we just have to handle it.
Yep.
And I will leave it with that thought, Kevin.
That's perfect, man. Look, ride with the team, watch the games. I get that, it's not fun when the team's not doing well at all, but I think, you look back and you see the team growing over the next couple of years. It's going to feel a lot better,
We can't go years at this point, Kevin. This is the post-game show. This is going to get better over the next couple of weeks. Over the next couple of weeks, it's going to get a little bit better.
Well, yes, a little bit better, but not a lot. A little. Baby steps. So I just look, we got next week coming up. That's all we can worry about is the Bears. And let's see what happens there. So, but John, I know it's not fun on this show right now, but thanks for being here.
Of course.
I appreciate it.
I love it. No matter how bad we're doing, Kevin, always happy to spend the time with you.
Good stuff. Well, man, nothing else to say, I think, other than, what we always ended on, which would be a very strong Go Broncos. Take care, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.
Do what I like, yeah, I do what I like, yeah, I do what I like. Sipping goose, sip is right, and I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, cause I know I'm the show. In the zone, here I go, in the zone, here I go, in the zone, here I go, yeah, they know I'm a pro.